What is up and welcome back to the Sticky Art channel. If you're new here, my name is Justin, and in this video I'm going to show you everything you need to know to get started in the app Procreate for the iPad. I'm using the most up-to-date version of Procreate 5X in 2021 on a 2020 Apple iPad Pro 12.9-inch screen with a Apple Pencil 2. I'm going to be going over a lot of different features of the app as well as how to use them. So I've broken it down into different categories as well as timestamped it in the video description below. So if you do want to hop around to different parts of the video, or if you want to save this video for future reference and come back to specific parts in the future, you can definitely do that. And with that being said, let's get started. When you open Procreate for the very first time, you're going to see some sample artworks. Feel free to check those out. But to get started in making your own artwork, you're going to hit the very top right. There's going to be a plus button. Go ahead and hit that, and then hit the black button below that, a little bar with another plus sign, and that will allow you to make a new canvas. Here's where you're going to enter your canvas size. You can either write it in using the Apple Pencil or type it in using the keypad. You also can pick your unit of measurements, either pixels, inches, centimeters, or millimeters. I commonly just use pixels just because it's a lot of online stuff that I do. For DPI or resolution, I almost always set that to 300. You can always go higher or lower, but keep in mind the larger you go in size or the higher DPI, the less maximum layers you'll have to use. Next, you're going to want it to select your color profile. If you're going to be working online or your artwork is meant to be displayed on a screen, so for animations or anything like that, you want to pick RGB. If you do plan on printing your artwork, you will want to pick CMYK, and you can just pick the very top generic kind of profile, but you do want to pick one of those. Next is the time-lapse settings. Here, pretty much in any Procreate canvas, it will record your full process, and you can actually pick the resolution that it records at. So if you want a high resolution playback, you can definitely go to the higher end. Keep in mind though that the higher resolution, the more memory it will take up on your iPad. I'm gonna leave the background options as is and tap Create. The first thing you'll want to do is select your brush, tap the brush icon, and on the left-hand side you'll see categories of brushes: sketching, inking, drawing. In each category, there will be a variety of brushes. I recommend going through all of the brush presets and trying them out for yourself, see which ones you like. You can also go into each brush and fine-tune them once you find ones you like. If there are any aspect that you'd like to change, there is a way to do that. I'll go over that in another video just because you can do so much with just the presets that Procreate includes. But once you have a brush selected, you can go ahead and use the Apple Pencil just like a normal pencil and draw on the screen. Should feel pretty much like an actual pencil. And if you use the side of the Apple Pencil on most of the sketching brushes, it works kind of like a shading technique. But you can try out the different pencils. My personal favorite for the pencil selection is going to be the Derwent pencil. For me, it feels most like an actual pencil. And one of my favorite for the inking brushes is going to be the syrup brush. You can also change the size of the brush with the top left slider. This brush takes advantage of the pressure sensitivity of the Apple Pencil. Using the lower slider on the left, you can change the transparency of the brush. Some of the brushes are great for making textures, so definitely explore and play around. Once your page is full and you want to clear everything off, you can tap Layers, slide to the left, and then Clear on the layer. This is going to give you a fresh layer. And the next brush that I want to show off is under Calligraphy. It's Monoline. I really like this brush because it gives you a really clean, uniform line. And I'm going to make a perfect circle using this brush. All I'm going to do is draw as close to a circle as I can and hold down, and it should make a circle, and then tap with my other hand with one finger and release, and that'll give me a perfect circle. The other way you can do this is tapping Edit and then circle after making that circle and holding down. You can also make it into an ellipse or click back on the circle to make it a perfect circle again. There you go, we have a perfect circle. And you can fill the circle just by tapping on the color blob and sliding it over to the circle and releasing. The other adjustment that you have is your color adjustment. You can either pick from this color wheel where you can pick any of the colors and then play around with the brightness and saturation on the inside. And the other way that you can do this is a gradient. You also have the ability to change the colors here with the slider, your saturation, and then the dark and light. Lots of ways to adjust the colors. You can also select through the colors that you used in the past or recently. You also have the option to pick a color, and then the harmony tool will find its complementary color. You're going to go into the values, adjust the colors by number. And lastly, you have palettes here, where you can take these preset palettes, or you can also make your own palettes by either picking different colors or even from a picture. So you can select a picture and it will make its palette from all the colors in it. The next really cool thing in Procreate is going to be the hand gestures. So the first one, just by holding down with one finger for a second or two, will pop up with your color selector. If you do it with a pencil, it will not work. You just can hold down and then select the color that you want on screen just by sliding your finger to that color. You can also do this with the pen by hitting on the left slider, that little square button, and then dragging to the color that you want. With 2 fingers, you can press on the screen once and it'll undo, and 3 fingers will redo what you have undone. And tapping with 4 fingers will get rid of your toolbar. If you tap with 4 fingers again, it'll bring back the toolbar. You can also take 3 fingers and go left and right on the screen a few times, and it will erase everything on that layer. 2 fingers will undo it. Using 3 fingers and swiping down will pull up the copy and paste toolbar. The copy and paste can be used to cut, copy, and paste anything on the layer. You can also use it to duplicate the whole layer. Be careful when placing the second layer. If it is placed off of the canvas and then placed, it will cut off any part that is overhanging. So when you do place it, make sure that it is fully centered or at least on the canvas. And you can use the layer select, which is the blue arrow, to move it around as well as rotate the layer. The green arrow will actually rotate it, while the yellow is just the actual 0 point. You can adjust the 0 point or reference point. And you can also tap it and enter it in rather than trying to hone in a little bit easier. When you use the double tap on the Apple Pencil, you'll want to go to Help and Advanced Settings, and then go to Apple Pencil. And where it says double tap, you can actually pick between Show Color Palette, switch between the current tool and last tool, and switch between the tool and eraser. Most commonly, I've tried using the tool and eraser. That seems to be the most helpful, although I'm going to go ahead and turn on Show Color Palette so you can actually see it really easily. So now when I double tap on the Apple Pencil in that area, it'll actually show the color palette, and I can pick from the color selector. This is a really quick way of bringing up the color palette without moving my hand as much. I personally find the double tap to get in the way for the most part, so I usually do turn it off, but it is kind of a cool feature just to be able to tap right there on the pencil and bring up different features. You can zoom in and out on the Procreate just like you would a normal iPad screen by pressing your fingers outwards, or zooming out by pressing inwards. You can zoom in all the way to the pixel, or squeeze it together really fast to zoom all the way out. And you can even zoom a little bit further out to see around the borders. So I'm going to go through the process that I go through to make a normal drawing, the sketch process on one layer, and then I'm going to use extra layer to make the outline and then color it in. So once I have a nice sketch that I like, I'm going to go into the actual layer, into the end setting, and adjust its transparency down to at least 50% or less, and then add a new layer. And then on that layer, I'm going to be using the inking syrup brush and kind of get my rough lines in. So I like to go in with a rough inking first, and then I fine tune it on another pass. But I'm going in with all the lines, trying to get them where I want them. I'm going to make a copy of this whole layer just by sliding to the left and hitting duplicate, and then I'm going to drop in color where I want it. For the color fill to work properly, you have to have all the lines connected. Now that I have everything where I want it, I'm going to use the liquify tool, and on top there's the push option. I'm going to move things around a little bit just to do some slight adjustments. You can change the size of the brush, and I'm just pushing everything around, trying to make fine adjustments. And last, I'm going to add another layer, and I'm using the calligraphy monoline to make some really clean lines. And I'm taking a lot of time to just make sure everything lines up and is super clean looking. I try to use one line thickness to make everything look really clean. I made another copy of this so I can add some color. Once I'm done with all the colors, I'm just zooming into some of the fine details and smoothing everything out, anything that stands out. And I have now a final image that is a really clean image from a sketch. Go into the video option on here and actually make this into a time lapse. And if I wanted to export this time lapse process, I could put it into a video format and even upload it on here. So I'm going to go ahead and export the full time lapse video. And I'm just going to save the video. I do want to mention is if you notice my background is dark, there is a light interface and dark interface option or toggle. A lot of people, if you use it, will turn it to the dark option just because it's a little easier on your eyes. You can use the select layer tool also to invert the image and kind of see how it looks as far as a reverse image. Also tap rotate to rotate it in increments. Options that allows you to fit it to screen. The distort option on there, you can also kind of change the way it looks. You can warp it. Tools are kind of tools or basic tools that you would have in Photoshop. One of the updates that is in 5X that I actually made another video on is the glitch effect. You can go into each layer and actually change a lot of different aspects of the glitch effect. You can add little blocks, signals, waves, as well as your divergence, and make the layers kind of pop off of each other. This adds for a really cool stylistic effect. And just using the sliders, you have a lot of options to kind of play around and fine tune this. And one other option is chromatic aberration. This is another cool one. You can actually turn it to displace and move them left to right, and it'll add a very cool kind of 3D displaced look. And in Procreate, you are capable of doing basic frame-to-frame animation. All you need to do that is turn on Animation Assist. I'll go over more into detail how to do the animation in another video. However, I am going to turn this ball into a quick little bouncing ball animation just by duplicating the layers and moving the ball around. I also squish the ball and use some other effects to kind of give it that bouncing look. So you can turn on onion skin opacity. This shows your other layers that are before and after the frame. Right now I have it turned off. You can see it kind of has that bouncy ball effect. And you can change the frames per second, how fast they are displayed. And here you can see all of the frames that I made. So this is just 8 different frames and a background. One of the other adjustments that I used was the motion blur. By sliding in the direction that it is moving, it'll make the motion go in that direction. So I'm going to go up down for this one since it's going in an up down direction, and apply that to some of the frames, and you can see you get a really nice effect. So I added a couple more frames where there is that kind of motion blur, and you can turn it into a one shot or turn it back into a loop and this bouncing ball. You can also zoom in and zoom out while it is playing, which is a pretty cool feature. And now I've got a bouncing ball. You can also change how many onion frames as well as the onion skin opacity. So this is just your frames that are before and after that it's going to show. So I'm going to go in the settings wrench and go into the drawing guide. Tap that on and edit drawing guide. This will allow you to adjust the grid. And if you want to leave that on, you can actually leave that on in the background. So while you draw, you will have a grid. And you can change the color of the grid as well as the shapes of it. Go with the triangle. Also, there's the option to do perspective. So you can tap one place and it'll actually give you a 1-point perspective. And the other one that I really like to use is the symmetry. So if you're drawing something that is symmetrical, you just have to draw one side of it and it will draw the other side for you. As long as you take your time and make sure all of the lines connect, you can come back in with the color dropping tool after making all of your lines. This saves a lot of time. Wherever you drop the color on one side, it will mirror on the other side. These tools are great for making detailed patterns. So you do have the option to change it from vertical to horizontal, also a quadrant, so you could do 4 of them. And the other one that I really like is the radial symmetry. And I also turn on rotational symmetry as a toggle, as well as the assisted drawing. And you're gonna go ahead and hit done. And now what you do in each radial is duplicated in a circle pattern. And it makes so you can make some really cool shapes and designs. Really easy to make mandala, as well as other geometric designs. Fun one to play around with. If you hold it down, depending on the brush that you're using, it'll do different things. With this monoline brush, I found out no matter what, if you hold it down, it only makes one line. However, using the inking brush, I'm using the syrup brush here, and if you hold it down, it'll make some more geometric shapes. Might either be more geometric or might be more curved. This is a fun and really useful time-saving tool. You can make a really complex design really fast if you want to. You can also take your time and actually go through and make a design a little bit more well thought out. I went ahead and did this, and I also made sure to connect all of the lines just like I did in the other drawings. And as long as you connect all the lines, you can actually use the color dropper in one place and it'll fill in everywhere on the outside if you have the assisted drawing left on. You can also go into the layers, turn off assisted drawing, and fill in each dot individually. That about wraps up my intro to Procreate tutorial. I hope this was helpful. If there's anything that I didn't cover, that you have any questions and want to know, let me know that in the comments below. Also, if you did enjoy this, hit the thumbs up button, as well as subscribe and turn on notifications for when I post my newest video. Feel free to share this video, as well as check out my other art and tutorials. And until next time, peace.